The Polar Express is the craziest movie I've ever seen, and I promise I am not exaggerating. Honestly, it does a pretty good job of adapting the classic book it's based off of, at least when it's trying to. The thing is, the book's pretty short and simple. A kid takes the Polar Express to the North Pole where he meets Santa and learns an important lesson about belief. There's not really a ton to it, and the scenes that are really taken from the book only make up roughly 45 minutes of the movie, which is only half of its full runtime. The creators then had to stretch it out by adding new elements. So what did they add? And were these additions any good? Seriously, what did I just witness? We're dangling from the side of a train, we're all gonna die. And it was at this point that I started to lose my mind. I think it's better we start from the beginning. Gear up, it's a Christmas one. This movie starts out pretty normally. Our hero boy, we never actually learn his name, is doubting whether Santa's real for the first time in his life. And they choose to show us this by having him look through a bunch of secret files he's collected, detailing how Santa is a lie. Who is this kid? That's pretty obvious storytelling, and what kid has files? But you know what, that's sort of nitpicky. Then the Polar Express arrives, and the boy starts his trip to the North Pole. Again, it's very charming and Christmassy. Tom Hanks is great as the conductor, the train looks really good, and why are their faces like that? You know, we'll talk about that one later. For now, I need to tell you about the hot chocolate flash mob scene. And yes, you heard me correctly. See, in the book, the ride on the Polar Express takes up about 3 pages, and nothing really happens. But we gotta stretch it to fill the runtime. We can't make a short film. So there's a line about how the passengers drank hot chocolate. That could be something, right? Let's have Tom Hanks sing a song as waiters serve hot chocolate and do an elaborate, highly choreographed dance. I mean, there's also a line about how they sang Christmas carols. That probably could have worked better if you wanted to do a song. There are only 2 of them in the whole movie, so it's an odd placement. Nah, this is good. But honestly, it's pretty fun, and it's really nothing compared with what's coming. So let's move on. So Hero Boy notices that a girl has accidentally left her ticket in her seat, tries to take it to her, but it's blown out of his hand, and so begins one of the greatest scenes in cinematic history. Stick with me here. The ticket flies along the outside of the train before falling to the ground. It is then bounced around by a pack of wolves until a bald eagle snatches it out of the air. After diving down a waterfall, the eagle gives the ticket to her chick, who chews it up, spits it out of the nest, where it rolls down the hill in a ball of snow. But we're not done. Not even close. The ball of snow crumbles, and the ticket is then hit by the train. It flies along the bottom of the train, temporarily getting stuck on the ghost hobo. Don't worry, we'll get to him, before miraculously flying back into the train car door. And I have to ask, are you not entertained? Seriously, what did I just witness? I really, honestly don't know what to make of this scene, and I definitely don't know why it was included, other than to fill runtime. I mean, you can chalk it up to Christmas magic that returned the ticket, but the ticket doesn't matter. It's a magic train that showed up at these kids' houses. What's the conductor going to do? Throw the girl off the train because she doesn't have a ticket? Holy shit, he's throwing her off the train because she doesn't have a ticket. At least, that's what the boy thinks is going to happen, as soon as he finds the ticket, he's suddenly in a mad dash to get it to her. He sees the conductor and the girl going on top of the train, so he has to climb up there too. Let me just point out the insane level of danger here, and really, it's present throughout this whole movie. Death is a very real possibility for our child protagonists. In the Polar Express movie. I don't know what to do with that information. What's wrong with his face? We'll get to it later. But anyway, the boy soon finds not the conductor, but the ghost hobo. Did you think I was kidding? I was not. The hobo challenges the boy's belief in Santa Claus by asking him if this is really just a dream. That's actually really interesting conceptually. I mean, never mind, now they have to ski down the train cars to make it to the coal compartment before they're killed by a tunnel that looks like a bobcat. But as the boy jumps, the ghost hobo turns out to be a ghost. I may have spoiled that one, sorry. See, one of the largest problems with this movie is the very real instances of tonal whiplash. There are a lot of action sequences thrown in to make the movie more exciting and to stretch its runtime, which feel very awkward in a story that at its core is really sweet and calm. One moment we're talking about the wonder of Christmas and the beauty of belief, And then we're dangling from the side of a train, we're all gonna die. Apologies for the voice crack, I promise you I am past the age where it should be happening. See, there's a reason most other children's Christmas movies don't do this, because it kind of buries the overall messages and themes under a sea of random action scenes that draw the audience's focus. People aren't going to be leaving the theater thinking, oh wow, Christmas is so wonderful. They're going to think, holy shit, those children almost died. Again, I want to remind you, the book talked about the kids singing Christmas carols, eating candy, and seeing snowy mountains and valleys. And they decided the best course of action was to add a ghost hobo action scene on top of the train. But we're not done, not even close. Would you believe me if I said we are only 40 minutes into this movie? Well, you shouldn't, because I lied. We are 30 minutes in. So the boy finds the girl in the front of the... What is wrong with your face every time, God damn it? Hey, she's operating the controls. And good thing too, because they immediately have to brake as hard as they can, or else they're going to crash into a million caribou that have for some reason gathered on the tracks. Sure, why not? One of the engineers does a special caribou call, stick with me to make all the caribou scram, and we're back to another action sequence. Don't stop the ride. Now one of the engineers has lost the metal piece that allows them to brake because he accidentally swallowed it. And so the train is sent careening down the side of a gulch. During this random roller coaster scene, one of 4 in the movie, the engineer coughs up the metal piece, but it flies completely off of the train and ends up cracking the ice the train is somehow traveling on. It then becomes a mad dash to get the train off of the ice before the magical Christmas train full of kids is plunged into the icy depths below. And it was at this point that I started to lose my mind. And we are only 36 minutes in. I should also point out that while this is all going on, the boy is still trying to recover the girl's ticket that he lost again. As if the conductor cares. First of all, he has bigger problems right now. Frankly, you both do. Second of all, he's not going to throw her off the train. He's one of Santa's helpers, for God's sake. In fact, he let her steer the train. That's the opposite. Anyway, to everyone's surprise, nobody dies a horrible death on Christmas Eve. But as they're walking back through the train cars, a marionette of Ebenezer Scrooge calls the boy a doubter and says they're alike in that way. And to this movie's credit, I fully bought the talking puppet. Because sure, why not? But don't worry, it hasn't gone completely off the rails. Get it? The puppet was actually just being controlled by the ghost hobo. We are still grounded in reality. Then, the 3 kids sing a really nice song, which is a good time to point out how great the music in this movie is. I mean, it's kind of hard to mess up Christmas music in my opinion, but it's still awesome. And, you know, maybe I'm being too hard on this movie. What is wrong with her face? I can't take it anymore. Let's talk about it. So, Polar Express was the first movie to be entirely created using motion capture computer animation. It's not really widely used for animated movies anymore. One of the more recent and best examples is the excellent Adventures of Tintin. However, while that movie came out in 2011, Polar Express released in 2004. As a result, the animation was rough, to say the least. It's not too noticeable with most of the grown-ups, since they have facial hair or wrinkles to cover it up. But with the 3 main kids especially, they kind of just have too much face, which can leave their eyes and mouths looking very creepy. It's still one of the best examples of the uncanny valley to date. Fun fact, both of my brothers went to see this as their first movie ever in theaters. They were terrified and still hate it to this day. Really can't blame them either, this is sort of scary.
Don't forget about Polar Express. Merry Christmas, kids. It's a nightmare.
And it's a real shame because this technology genuinely has so many useful applications and the rest of the movie looks pretty good. The backgrounds are beautiful and the color palette is just right. It really strikes a balance between the cold of the snow and the warmth of the train. It just feels like I want to snuggle up somewhere with some hot chocolate and watch it again. So after all that, the train actually arrives at the North Pole. I don't know how. However, the movie still needs to fill time, so our heroes can't just go to see Santa yet. Instead, an accident sends their train car hurtling through the streets of the North Pole. They then have to find their way back to the train, which includes balancing on a narrow beam of death above a seemingly endless drop. Then, they get to watch the elves work, before ending up in Santa's bag of toys and being airlifted back to their group. Oh, what's that? We need more excitement thrown in? Well, what if the bag of toys knocks the star off the Christmas tree and it almost crushes an elf? Sure, why not? But then we're back to the book, as Hero Boy learns a nice lesson about belief and the true meaning of Christmas. Santa gives him a bell off his sleigh, which he promptly loses. God, he's just like me, for real, before they all travel home. The kids say their goodbyes, which is really sweet, and then the conductor tells the boy,
One thing about trains, it doesn't matter where they're going. What matters is deciding to get on.
which, I mean, it kind of does. I mean, I see what they're going for, and it's a nice message, but I don't think the metaphor works quite as well as they think it does. Regardless, Santa returns the sleigh bell on Christmas Day, and the movie draws to a close. And I don't know about you, but this movie leaves me with just one simple question. What just happened? Because I just watched half of a really good Christmas story and half of a batshit insane movie inhabited by a group of what I can only describe as a squad of demon children. And I think I liked it. I promised myself I wouldn't make really negative videos on this channel, because I think being positive and spreading love is much better than the alternative. However, I thought this movie would be a fun little exception, let me be mean for Christmas. But all of the crazy elements of it were actually incredibly entertaining. I wouldn't describe it as good, really, but I can't argue with the results. Overall, I think The Polar Express is just a fascinating movie to study, both for its perfect example of the uncanny valley, and as a case study of what happens when you have to stretch a movie past its natural runtime. You can say that all of the weird elements to this movie I listed are there to give the movie a more surreal feeling, to make you question whether it's all really a dream, like the Ghost Hobo says, to test the belief that the movie's been instilling in you with its themes, which I think is a really cool idea. But on the other hand, I just said the words Ghost Hobo in the Polar Express movie, so I think there are ways they could have added some more dreamlike elements without creating so much tonal whiplash or burying its story. But please, form your own opinions about this movie, because I was really entertained by it, and I bet you will be too. Thanks for watching. I know this is very different from the kind of video I usually make, but I wanted to do something fun for Christmas. Feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you.
Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express.